Welcome everyone to We're Talking. We're super excited to have you guys join us tonight. We're going to talk about making money, content creation, and Corey, if you could introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Okay, my name's Corey Gums. I'm the founder of the Black Podcasters Association and also founder of Black Pod News, blkpodnews.com, which is a newsletter right here on Substack. And I am a sitting board member of Air Media and a co-owner of Press Record Studios out located in Westbury, Long Island. And, every week you're going to get a different hat because I don't ever keep it consistent, but that's who I am.
Angela.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Angela Hollowell. I am the writer of two newsletters. One of them is Please Hustle Responsibly, which is a newsletter community for creators who want to learn, connect, and grow. The second one is Melanin MVP, which is why I take offense to Corey trying to hate on my New York Liberty.
Hate it?
But Melanin MVP is for Black and brown women's sports fans. So that's you, or if you're an everyday athlete, you run, you hike, um, I don't know what, swim, bike, all those good things. Check out Melanin MVP. We would love to have you. Michelle, our hostess with the mostest and tons of sugar. What's up?
Oh, a lot of sugar today. So hi everyone, my name is Michelle Jackson. I run a couple different projects, but tonight I'm going to just share two. The first is creators getting paid. I basically ask people, it's primarily Black and brown creators and a few very sweet allies, how they make money as content creators, as online brand builders. And then I share that with my audience. And then I also run a personal finance podcast. I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that. It was distracting. I run a personal finance brand called Your American Money. And basically, what I do is talk about polarization, pop culture, and policy. I am very excited to revisit my post on how Meghan Markle is working to become a billionaire. Uh, a lot of people are crashing out. I love it. But today, we are going to be talking about is there a feedback, Corey? What is that? I could totally see. This is when you get three podcasters. We all hear this. What is happening?
It's my headphones. They just I don't know what just happened. They moved to my computer, but you can keep talking.
Someone's hacking our feed. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm freaking out.
Sorry, no, it was my headphones. They went to my computer for some reason.
Steve is like, it's
Yeah, it's
all
me.
Corey.
It's Steve's fault.
um,
Steve jinxed us. I'm sorry, y'all. Steve,
Steve,
you won today. You won today, Steve. You got it.
um, okay, so this is the question we're going to be reflecting on for today, which is why is one creator, me, asking how are you making money online? Like, why am I asking people this? But the first thing we'd like to know, we all three want to ask all of you, when you think about making money online as a creator, as an entrepreneur, what have you, what comes to mind? Like when we're like, yeah, you can make money online, or when you hear someone saying that, what comes to mind? And if you could do us a favor, hi Michael, if you could, type into the chat, like what comes to mind when we ask that question, that would be awesome because we want to kind of talk about that. So as you guys are typing that into the chat, I would love for us three to kind of talk about when we hear this question. What do you think about making money online? What comes to mind for you guys? Like what are your thoughts? Especially when you were first getting into this whole like online brand building situation.
You can go first,
Mhm.
Angela.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to read some of the comments here.
Yeah.
For me, I got introduced to online creators through YouTube. So for me, when it came to how they made money, my understanding was that typically they made money through Google AdSense, digital products. A lot of creators that I follow were photographers and filmmakers. They would sell Lightroom presets or Adobe Premiere LUT packs or motion graphic templates. Um, And so digital products, not as many people had courses in that space at that time. I feel like courses got popular during the pandemic, especially the cohort style courses, which were pretty expensive. So kudos to everybody who made a bag while they could. I mean, to varying degrees of quality, that is. And then the other maybe like third chunk was brand deals and brand sponsorships. That was definitely very much alive pre-pandemic, especially on YouTube. It was almost like this badge of honor to say like this video is sponsored by Squarespace or this video is sponsored by MPB or something like that. And that's still very much the play because as people are now coming to understand, Google AdSense typically does not pay enough to sustain a creator. Um, majority of people are getting their money from brand deals or digital product sales. And then maybe a smaller chunk too are also now because YouTube is this big business, they are making money freelancing and working for other bigger YouTubers who can't sustain a small team. And so they're making money as freelancers in this kind of like very hyper specialized place. It like my definition has definitely broadened now, but that's how it started. Like my understanding of like the buckets of income for an online creator.
What about you, Corey?
I really didn't care until I started doing this podcasting, like podcasting from a business point of view. For me, it's always been about the grift. So I was always
Mm,
skeptical of people on online, especially YouTube's, when they have products and stuff. What's the grift? I guess maybe it's the New Yorker in me, it's the old school New Yorker. I don't know.
yeah.
You're always waiting to hear where the con is at. And a lot of times be like, oh, there it goes. But as I started working with creators and in my community and stuff, I started like learning like courses, the digital products and stuff. I see where people look at it for money, but when I was building websites and stuff, it was more like ad revenue. I'm gonna date myself, like, the early 2000s, late 90s. It was all about banner ad space and banner ads and all that stuff. So I kind of come from that side of the money side of the internet and building a startup. So the past couple of years has been a learning curve for me and starting to learn to understand how creators make money in this space outside of just the conventional ways of like advertising and selling merch and stuff like that. So, and I think what the introduction of AI is kind of changing things as well. So I never thought about brand deals until I got into the till I started like looking to really take the podcasting side of things seriously.
I have a totally different experience, and that's part of the reason why I love having 3 of us in here. I saw people making money as bloggers. So back in the day,
Yeah.
when I first started blogging, I was in the personal finance space. So I think it really helped that I was in the personal finance space, and there were a lot of things that kind of spun out of that space, like business content creators, all the mommy focused folks, even though they hate calling themselves mommy bloggers. All there are a couple other like the fire movement folks, fire and financial independence, retire early, and then like just all the podcasters. There were a lot of offshoots that kind of spun out of being in the personal finance space, and so I have friends who have sold their websites for like 7 figures. And so what was interesting about being like a person who was creating this online thing, I had no intention ever of making money with that project. I just was like sharing a story. And then as time went on, I was like, why the hell? What is wrong with me? Like we're in this emerging technology and this huge opportunity. And I was just trying to figure out, well, how can I get my creative project to even like, how can I fit what felt like a round peg in a square, in a
Boy,
square. Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
or the opposite, you know what I mean? Like I just couldn't figure out like how it would work. But I knew it could work because I was seeing all these people make money. So like I know a girl, her name is Michelle. A lot of Michelles out there, and she runs a huge website. Huge website. I think at this point she's probably made I think probably $7 million. And, just watching Michelle build out it's a website called Making Sense of Sense, and having just watching Michelle build that thing out and, like, the amount of work that she did, and so I knew that it was possible, but I also felt like there were a lot of parts to it I didn't understand. Um, I had a friend here in Colorado. I still have a friend who's here, and he was not like a content creator where he's like going to, conferences and stuff. He just was a genealogist, and he had built out a website. And he actually, every time there was like a 23andMe ad, and a couple other like shows around genealogy, he would just make crazy money. Like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, when that became a thing. And he just made here in Denver, he made so much money, and then he's set for life. And so I also knew these people who weren't like front facing, like, I'm the face of this thing, who just had a project. They quietly just were grinding it out, and then they made this money. And so I was just like really fascinated, but I just couldn't figure out like, how does my project, how can I make that happen for what I'm doing? So this leads me to my next question, which we kind of touched on, but like I want to get a little deeper in, which is, what were your first experiences thinking about observing other people making money online as digital entrepreneurs? Like, when you were watching what they were doing, what kind of came up? Audience members, please feel free to drop your observations, your experiences in the chat too, because there are a lot of us in here, and I'm curious, like, what was it like to see these other people? Like, it felt like there were all these unicorns, but there were so many people that I knew that it wasn't like they were unicorns. They just knew something I didn't, and they also had a little bit of luck, which I do feel like is important to bring up.
I know
Yeah.
for me, my experience was a little bit different.
Mm,
I was, it's actually how I got into programming. My experience came from music. So for me, that I was watching the digital side from the music point of view through like Napster, that whole Napster thing.
mm,
And I knew that's when I knew I was like, okay, this is gonna move over to this space. And I was only like 21, 22 years old. And me and my friends were chasing our music dream. And I was like, I remember pitching it to my friends, like, we need to do something online. And that's when I created my website called don'tgetjerked.com, because it was about teaching people the music business. So I wasn't a blogger, and I wasn't trying to be a blogger, but I wanted to have like this hub. So for me, the whole making money on the digital space comes from that whole startup rush in the late 90s, early 2000s of like, you come up with an idea, you solve a problem, you create a company, and you launch a website. So that's how I've
mhm.
always looked at the digital space until maybe like 2013, 2014. Um, but that's how I've always approached it. So like, it was like, okay, let's build an app, let's build a website, and let's launch it, get an audience up, and one, get the ad revenue, but also if it's a well, back when I was doing it, my idea, it wasn't called a SaaS at the time. It wasn't, service as a product, but that's what I was trying to build. So that's that. So my mentality's always been like that. So it's been an adjustment period for me, from moving from like startup mind to like, okay, creating like we got to create digital products and figure out other ways of like capitalizing off the internet. So, and it's been a struggle for me. That's not how my brain works. So it's like I have wonderful people like you around me and other people that are like coaching behind the scenes. But I always looked at it from the internet as a tool to build a company on. So that's how I've looked at it.
What about you, Angela?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit different. Like, I think even though I saw that, like, and I've been watching YouTube since I was like, in high school. So I've been really familiar with the space and seen it evolve over time. And like even back then, this is before filmmakers and photographers kind of found their way to the platform. And it was really like a lot of comedians on the platform when I first started watching.
Mm,
Yeah.
Completely different, right? In terms of what a brand integration looks like then and what it looks like now. And that's not even to talk about like creator audience support. There was no buy me a coffee or leave me a tip on YouTube like there is now. And so I think like while I kind of understood how it was happening, I also understood that it works because of the scale and because of the personality driven channel, right? Like I wasn't watching like news channels blow up on YouTube. Like I was watching just everyday people turn on a camera, show their personality, entertain you or educate you, and then making money. Um, so it's interesting to see like how much of the conversation around monetization has come to the forefront. Like I was literally just watching a video today where this guy was like, I told my wife I wanted a year to see if I could make it on YouTube, and it's a year later and I'm only making $100 a month. Like, this isn't sustainable. I need to go do something else. Right? Like, that's the downside of it. It's like even though we have all this access to information about monetization and like technically anybody can do it, the reality of doing it is so much harder than what a lot of people let on. And what you're putting in versus what you're getting out sometimes is definitely not a one-to-one or a profitable situation. So it's I think been interesting to see, but also just kind of like has always been in the back of my mind, like this isn't something you need to do first if I'm a creator. Like I need to start freelancing, I need to start consulting, like I need to do something else before I just try to like, oh, I'm gonna turn my camera on YouTube because I'm a filmmaker and I know how to make films and I'm gonna get big on YouTube and make tons of money. Like probably not. It's probably gonna take a lot longer than what I think and what most people think. So that's kind of my impression of it. And it's not to be like a Debbie Downer. Sorry, James. But like trying to be honest. Like I just
No,
see it
totally honest.
like I just see it so much. And it was like honestly, I know she's saying like his wife was like they saw to but in the reality, like, okay, if we're looking at like the Peter McKinnons, the Maddie Hapoyas, like they did the same thing. They told their wife, like, oh, I think I'm getting big. Can you float us for a year and let me see how this goes? But I think there's something to timing. Like Peter McKinnon and Maddie Hapoya, they were in like the 2010s. So like way before it was a very saturated space that it is now. And they were uniquely good at filmmaking. Right now, like the quality varies. Just because you have a camera doesn't mean that it's good. And I think like so there's a lot to it. But I just try to caution people whenever people come to me and they're like, hey, I want to grow my newsletter or my podcast or my YouTube channel, make money. I'm like, you got a backup plan? Like, do you plan to freelance for other people? Like, because this probably is going to take a lot longer than what you think. But those
I
my
think.
thoughts. Michelle, what about you? Oh, Corey.
Go for it.
Sorry. I was just gonna make a point to what you said about the whole YouTube thing because I correlated to because I remember like I think the YouTube people have the YouTube pre Google. I think that's
Mm.
part of the problem.
Yeah.
They think of being a creator on there, where YouTube you could make money on YouTube when it was YouTube before Google got involved with. And this is no shade on Google, but um,
It is paid on Google. They fucking with your ad
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
look, whatever. The views on this show are everybody's respective views on that one. No, but like I correlated to like when I went back to school, I was driving Uber because it gave me the freedom and I could make money. And I remember like this was like 2016 in New York. I was clearing like $400 or $500 a day driving
Mm.
Uber. I mean, I was putting in my work hours too, but it was much easier. When I talk to Uber drivers now and I ask them like, how is it? You would think that it would be easier for them to make more money now with rates going up, and you hear that it's even worse now than it was 10 years ago. And I think but people. So then the question I always ask is, so why do you still drive Uber? But I think in people's minds, they still think they can do. We always like to think we can go back to those days where everybody, like Wall Street, right? Everybody think we go back to Wall Street where it was like the Wild West, and you could do all these different things to make money. But now it's so heavily regulated that you got to be real careful. You can still make money, you got to be extra careful on how you go about it because it can wind you with a SEC, investigation and all that stuff. So I correlate like I think and I think that's also a problem in podcasting sometimes. Yeah, I'm not being PC. I just have some things in the work that I'm trying. I don't want to get called out on, but long story short, like even podcasting, like what people were making in podcasting like when COVID happened to where it's at now, within that short amount of time, it's not the same. So it's just something about content. People. I'm correlated to music because that's the best thing I can do. I remember when the mixtape game took off. When I'm gonna use DJ Clue from New York City because he's a great example. When I was working in the industry, he was blowing up. He was getting all these exclusives, and one of the things that I used to encounter from DJs when I was servicing them records from the record label was, can you give me exclusives like DJ Clue? And I think that's part of the problem is like people see what was successful with one person or a group of people at a particular time, and they think they could replicate it, not realizing that that was that in that time, right? We'll never have steel barons again. We'll never have railroad barons again. Like we'll never have that that era, but people still, for some reason, think they can replicate it or get as close to that as possible. And I think that's part of the problem with, in this space sometimes when we look at YouTube and you see a Mr. Beast, you hear his story, but he started like he was 14 years old when he started. He's got a decade in before, he's got a decade in already in his success. So it's like, but people and it always goes back to what I say. People are enamored with they're enamored with the outcome and not the story. So
I actually,
not the
I think it's
journey.
really important. I think it's really important to point out a couple of things. One is all three of us have similar but different positioning in our brands. So Angela is video focused. Corey is more like audio focused, and I'm more podcast and written focused. So I do want to bring that up. So the other thing I was thinking about as you guys were bringing up these points is there are these moments in digital content creation specific to the tools people are using, the platforms, where there's like an inflection point, right? Where like you're building, 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 and then it kind of flattens out. And I think there are a number of people that I know who are able to really like benefit from the uptick. Like my friends who got all the traffic from Pinterest before they broke the algorithm, or people who are really able to like optimize SEO until Google started breaking their own algorithm, which makes no sense because they need ad revenue, right? Or I feel like any of the platforms, like actually Twitter is a great example. I've a lot of people were doing all the threads and things like that, and they were getting tons of traffic, and that has definitely eroded. Um, from what I understand from people who are still on there. So I think that part of it is just being sometimes, like I said earlier, a little bit of luck
Yep.
that coincides with the amount of work that you're doing, the people that you know, and just understanding like the behind the scenes strategy. The other thing I want to say is I don't know that saturation's actually an issue, and I'll tell you why. How many hamburger places are there? How many donut places are there? How many freaking coffee shops are there? Like we've got thousands and thousands thousands of these in every country. If we want to only speak about the US, we've got like I can go outside my house and there are coffee shops everywhere. There's hamburger places. There's all these different things. So people are going to sometimes multiple hamburger shops and they are feeling like there's a difference in each shop, right? I go to coffee shops. That's like my thing. And for me, there's a different vibe at most of the ones that I go to. So I, as a consumer of that product, am excited to go to those things. I think it's not even that there's all these people. It's how do you get people to know that you're there, and what's the percentage that you really need to get in front of? Because I think in our heads we think that we need to be in front of like 100,000 people, when maybe we need to get in front of like 5, 6, 7, 10,000 people, and that could be a very life changing number or percentage of potential folks who are purchasing from us versus sometimes that huge number that I feel like exists in a lot of people's heads.
I want to chime in here on the saturation thing. When I think about saturation, I don't think about, oh, there's so many people starting a YouTube channel now. Why would someone watch me? I don't think about
Yep.
that. When I think about just the amount of people in this world, there's no such thing as too much stuff. Like there will always be something for people to watch. And as long as I'm putting myself out there, I will always be an option. And as long as you stay consistent and keep going, the number, ideally, like you're going to get better, the number is going to keep going up. That's not the issue. When I think about saturation, particularly with YouTube, it is that not necessarily saturation for your audience, but okay, Sonia, bye.
Bye, Sonia.
It's saturation for brands. Like if now it was rare for someone to reach 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, then okay, who does the money go to if they're all in the similar niche, right? But now, maybe like the barrier to entry for a lucrative brand deal is much higher, which I think is what like this content creator was saying, like when he was like, I'm only making $100 and it's all Google AdSense, like he was really struggling to have brand deals. And he was like, well, I thought, I tripled my audience. I thought that would help, but that has not really done anything. Like I'll have brands reach out, I'll send them my rates and then they'll ghost me. So I'm not having success getting brand deals. And so I think like, again, people watching him, we don't care how many subscribers he has as long as the stuff is good. Right. But from a brand perspective, it's like, okay, I think he was at like 15,000 subscribers 5-10 years ago. That would have been amazing. But now it's like, well, a lot of people can get that now. What's harder? 50,000, 100,000, like that might be like a greater threshold on YouTube. And I think just going back to timing here a little bit too, because like newsletters, these are not new. Like what we're doing is like we're blog articles. They're not new necessarily. Like we're just continually reinventing the method in which we get them out, right? And Substack helps with growth in the way that other platforms didn't. We don't have to necessarily focus on making our titles SEO friendly anymore. We just have to make them clickable in somebody's inbox, which is two different things completely, right? In terms of packaging. And so even with that, like again, like you don't have to serve Google SEO anymore. You just have to serve your audience, right? And that also depends on like, okay, if I'm serving them and I want to make this sustainable, what does that look like for me? Which is going to be different for everybody. So I just want to put that out there, like a little bit of context here. I'm not saying go out and try to get 50,000 on YouTube tomorrow. That's what you need to live. Like that's not what I'm saying at all.
I will mention that maybe we should all share like how our brands are positioned because I think that's interesting. Hi, Kimberly. I think that would be interesting for the audience to kind of like see how we're positioning what we're building. So, Angela, do you want to take it?
Not really. Okay.
Yeah, I love how Michelle always brings this up, and then she never's like, I'll answer first. She never like she'll come with the question and be like, all right, you guys throw you right under the bus.
Whatever. Okay, I'll go second. Okay.
Lord have mercy. So I'll just talk about my newsletters because that's probably the most interesting thing here for people on Substack. So Please Hustle Responsibly is a companion newsletter for my podcast, Honey and Hustle. We stand. You know what? I appreciate you. It was meant to be a companion newsletter for my podcast. My podcast is focused on creators, entrepreneurship. It is a regionally focused show. Like I really only interview people in North Carolina, but I was like, okay, this is kind of limiting in that this is the internet. And I know that these are going to like go past the boundaries that are North Carolina. So like, how could I make something that's a little less regional, but still complementary in terms of topic? And so that's kind of where Please Hustle Responsibly comes in. Are there newsletters on creativity? Yeah, North Carolina. I know that's right. Wait. But listen, New York, we're not dealing with y'all right now, okay? But are there newsletters on creativity, creative entrepreneurship, the creator economy? Yeah, absolutely. Are there people who are focusing on it from an aspect of community, from an aspect of highlighting Black and Brown creators, mostly women creators? Is there an aspect of lived and learned experience as a creative entrepreneur? That bucket gets like a lot smaller when you start to put those caveats on it. And that's where I try to come from when I'm writing. Why are you hating on North Carolina, Corey? Ain't nobody. Don't. New York, Liberty, North Carolina. Just say you hate me, Corey. Anyways, listen.
That's the lies that are being told tonight.
So yeah, so that's kind of where I come from in terms of writing Please Hustle Responsibly. I try to make it as uniquely my own as I possibly can. So that like this doesn't feel like generic creator entrepreneurship advice, get rich quick. Even this month is Black Business Month, so I'm giving a lot of like really highly tactical tips and tricks about the business side of things. I realized I was kind of over-indexing on the creativity side of things naturally. So that's kind of the perspective there. With Melon and MVP, as it says in the name, I try to tell stories about Black and Brown women athletes. When I was searching, I'm getting really into the WNBA and soccer and all those things. I was like, okay, where's the outlet for us? Because if I see another headline about somebody looking at Caitlin Clark the wrong way and being demonized for it. Like I might scream a little bit. Um, so I was like, okay, and I searched high and low, and I was like, I can't find it, so maybe I should just like make it. And I had no experience in like sports writing or sports media, so it still, in many ways, feels like I'm finding my footing there a little bit, but I feel good about the quality there and feel good about how tight the premise is. Like I always know what my constraints are, and so I can always be innovative within those boundaries, which feels really good for me, at least in terms of positioning. Like I know there's nothing else like it out there. So that's for me. Michelle, since you said you would go next.
Oh, by the way, everyone, I love both of Angela's projects, but I'm especially such a huge fan of Melanin MVP because I used to be a cheerleader. I used to like always watch sports. And so having a place where I can like geek out with other women who enjoy sports and like some of the different conversations that would come up than in other women's sports spaces. I'm like so excited about the growth of this project. So yeah, I think it's wonderful. Um, so I run more than one project, as apparently we all do. And creators getting paid, as I mentioned before, I ask Black and Brown, primarily Black and Brown, with a few allied creators, how they make money online. And there were a couple of reasons why I created Creators Getting Paid. I didn't just want to have that monetization conversation. Like, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and um, I just felt like the business focused show that I wanted to listen to was just not out there. Like everything was just a little bit off, right? So there were just certain topics I wanted to talk about. There was certain uh, positioning that I wanted to hear. And I just kept being frustrated. Like I would listen to all these different shows and I'm like, why aren't they talking about this? Why aren't they talking about that? Why aren't they asking these questions? And similar to Angela, I was like, I'm going to ask these questions. And I feel like it's the Leo in me that I will ask the awkward questions and like I feel like I do the stuff that's like, why are you doing that? And so I was like, let's put that somewhere. And it's been a very um, it has exceeded my expectations. It has been slow to build because I am not a social media forward brand. It's like out of all the ways I market, that's the last way I market. Um, but it has absolutely deepened um, the connections that I have with people in multiple industries online. I just know a lot of people because when you talk to a lot of people and you have like these long conversations about in-depth conversations about the creative work that they're doing. There's a creator. I'm gonna keep it vague because we have to like finalize scheduling and all this stuff. There's a creator who's developed um, another creator because I spoke to Anela Malik and she fundraised crowdfunded to develop a show for YouTube, but I'm reaching out to another person who's developed another show and like and they are Black and learning what did they have to do this? Like how are you paying for this? Like what's going on? And I feel like those questions are so helpful and the answers to Black and Brown creators because they're just things that I feel like we don't know or we're not at the table to know or we're not at the events or the social spaces, especially moving forward. I hate to say this, especially as we move forward with what's going on. Um, the other project that I will mention is Your American Money. I have had it on a hiatus for a couple years just because I've worked on it for years. And that project, similar to the first one, I just had lots of like if you're doing personal finance, I could never understand how personal finance content creators never talked about policy. And I'm like, why? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's so disingenuous that you're not talking about how canceling XYZ has a ripple effect and an impact. So I have always been that girl with my content talking about policy. A good example is I did a 13-week season about the potential for student loan forgiveness. So before it was ever a policy, I developed a whole 13-week season where I spoke to different experts around this topic. And what was wild at the end was that the people who were for it and against it, I asked them separately. Like, no one talked to anyone but me. I asked them separately. I was like, hey, so how would you solve this problem of student loan debt and what's going on? And they all had the same solutions. It was crazy to me. And some of these people were very like positioned firmly where they were, right? And then when I was like, how can we change this? How can we make this how can we do something so that this doesn't happen again to a generation or multiple generations of students? And they were like, this is what we should do. And they agreed on everything. They never talked to one another. So I really wanted to develop projects that I just didn't see other people positioning the work that I did. But it cost a lot of money to do these things, right? It's a lot of energy to do these things. And so having um, the energy to do these things and then being like, in order for me to sustain my life and sustain like and to exceed what I want for myself and also to optimize the internet, I got to get paid. And so that was the other part of developing these projects. It's like I know millionaires who have made money online. I know all these people who like they caught lightning in a bottle and they were able to optimize the work that they did. And I'm like, why is it that there are so many creators who just aren't even able to make beyond a side hustle income, beyond you know what I mean? And so that is why I am asking these questions because I don't necessarily think it's rocket science. I do think it's strategy, logistics, again, timing, and who you know, and partly just what you need to build in the background. And I want to just be like, this is what they're telling me. This is what's going on. And then by speaking with all these different creators, my hope is that someone who is connecting with that content will connect with something that makes sense for the work that they're doing, you know?
Before I go into mine, I just want to add to what you just said, Michelle. I think sometimes we forget that this is new, and a lot of these people aren't making money because this is something new to them, and that they've never done this before, so they don't know. So they don't know, and access to resources sometimes gate kept by
Mm,
grifters and other people. And they, I'm gonna always bring up that word grift in these types of conversations because it's clear as day when you see it, when you see people do it. But I think part of the problem, well, I think part of the discussion is that you have, this person who's been a lawyer for 20 years that decides now they want to move into the content creation space, but they don't know because they're only going by what they see and they think it's easy. We see that with podcasting, right? I'll just get a microphone, I'll just start talking, and a lot of times you realize the scope and the breadth of what you're doing, and how many hats you got to wear, and all these different things you got to do, and then it becomes overwhelming, and then it just becomes this thing that's like, well, you might have to commit to it because you told your wife to give you a year, right? Like, but it's not working because you have this pressure on you, and then you might not even have the proper resources. You might not have the money to spend $97 a month on a Joe Schmo's program to be able to learn how to become a 100,000 a year content creator, right? Like, so it's like those are part of the real issues with why I think so a lot of content creators jump into like YouTube and these spaces, and don't make the money that they thought they could make because they thought it was just so easy. Another thing we all know is sometimes they don't even know who they're talking to. They don't even know who their audience is. So that just makes it 10 times harder, to figure out, to reach that audience that will take you to the next level. Um, I'm going to segue into why I created the newsletter. Because I look at my newsletter as a cautionary tale of 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, um, which talks about being first to market. Why are you shaking your
mm.
head?
Why do you mention the worst men ever in existence?
In
on your sh
every live stream, and I don't
You want
understand
to
it
see my?
because
Do
we're
I need
all
to? Do I need
black.
to show you
Like
my
I
stuff?
don't understand this.
Well, this is okay. Whatever. Anyway,
Ignore us. Okay, keep going.
yeah, I am gonna ignore y'all because
I know you are.
unless you read the book, if you read the book, then I can sit
I
and we
don't.
can have that discussion. That's the truth of the matter. Like we knock information simply because of the messenger when sometimes the information is true. I mean, if when he anyway, like I'm not trying to defend. I'm not trying to
No,
defend.
no, no, no.
It's the knowledge of it, and the most
Yeah.
important part of that book is being about like being first to market, right? And
Mhm.
then the consequences of being second, third, or whatever, and the consequences of being first to market. I created my newsletter because there was nothing else out there for us. So there was nothing dedicated to the black space of podcasting, which it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody today. We were talking about it. It's like I'm going to all these different functions. I'm hearing the names of these big podcasts and these big podcast companies. I'm seeing the people who are getting all the recognition, and then I'm meeting the people who are doing the actual work to make it a success, and it's not correlating. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we need a tool, or we need something to lift these people who are not getting the shine, not getting the do, not walking on the stage. That editor that made your podcast an award-winning editor is not on stage with you when you're getting your Ambie Award. You get what I'm saying? So it's like,
Mhm.
but you wouldn't have that success if they didn't bring their talent and their skill set to make your show a success. So I was like, well, we need to create a platform. And then I was also people was sharing stories about how they were trying to get their articles published, and people were like this not in alignment with what we do, which is a total crock of BS because it was about podcasting, right? It just came from a black perspective. So I was like, well, we'll just build our own. So that's my positioning is that there's nothing out there. We're the only ones doing it right now. Um, and I'm trying to fill these gaps that I keep seeing and within the industry and within our space, and just trying to fill them and trying to create a platform that lifts and promotes and pushes forward these black content creators as well as the people that work behind the scene, the professionals, the support, whatever titles you want to call it. But one central place that you can get all your information about black creators and the blackosphere of the content of podcasting, and sometimes leaking over into the content creation space because a lot of podcasters wear both hats. So so it was like basically nobody's doing it. We're gonna do it, and I've been torturing myself ever since because
Oh,
because I basically created a whole new company, and it's a lot of work
yeah.
and it's a lot of responsibility and it's a lot of things moving parts that I'm trying to manage, but. That's where my motivation to start the Black Pod News came from.
Can I
So I
jump
have
in
a
here real quick?
yeah.
I want to jump in here about the Peter Thiels, the Elon Musk of the world. And this is partially to agree with you, actually, Court. I'm not discounting that what he said is correct. I think there are a lot of people that I don't personally agree with who are right about a lot of things. Maybe not the fundamental things that I agree, like civil rights and shit like that, small things, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But but I'm not like trying to discount that his book is helpful or transformative or anything like that. But I do think like, and we're gonna get into this a little bit, like when we think about who we're platforming, like, yeah, they may be the first or the loudest to have done it, but that doesn't mean that they're the only. And if we can find examples, like there are definitely black people who are rich as shit and have a lot of great ideas on how to build a business, right? And I think part of it is it's on us to be intentional about whose words that we're sharing. Not to say you shouldn't ride for the guy's book. Cool, ride for it. But maybe use a synonym like the gay fucker or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the gay Republican. Like use a different name or something.
I
But we don't give
I'm
him
gonna
credit.
agree with her. I'm gonna agree with Angela. I reacted this way last time. This is our space, and I feel like when you bring up those assholes' names, I have to sage everything. I don't want them in our space because we like, as it is, they're actively trying to keep us from being in spaces like the one that we're curating, and I
That's
don't
not
like
the
it.
point. They're trying to kill us, babes. Like Elon Musk, way more effective than Hitler. Honestly, Hitler would be proud, quite frankly, at his efficiency. That's all I'm saying.
And this is why I want us to make our money so that we can do what we want to do. And so I have a
Well,
question for you guys.
I'm gonna call out everybody that disagrees, like I always do. Is if you okay, then go publish the book.
Yeah.
Go publish the
Actually,
book.
funny that you funny that
No,
you
no,
brought that up.
because people want to push back on these things. And granted, like, look, for me, that was YouTube. I used to
Yeah.
listen, watch, study. That's the space I was trying to get into. So I was studying the people at the time that were like if I want to learn basketball, I'm gonna watch Jordan. If I'm gonna go learn baseball, I'm gonna watch Ken Griffey Jr. or somebody of that capacity, whether they're politics or whatever. And the funny part was at that time, their politics, you didn't know their politics, right?
Right.
And we're gonna get into a whole nother conversation about that. But at the end of the day, the information is the information. And
I hear you on that. I hear you on that. But
I'm gonna tell you something as somebody who reads a lot of history. One of the things I've always learned, and I've always pushed back on Black people when it comes to learning about history, is you need to go read and listen to what the white people are saying. Just like you need to go listen to this person, you need to read everything and then you disseminate the information for yourself on what's going to work for you. So yes, okay, I hear you guys about platforming. I have a whole different opinion on all that stuff, but and I'm not kissing nobody's ass about it. Like don't twist. Don't think that because I'm not
Right.
disparaging them that I don't want like Elon's like I don't have a huge problem with Elon and his politics and especially these past couple of years. It's like crazy when but at the end of the day, I'm trying to accomplish something, and I'm going to take the information wherever I need to get it from to help me accomplish that. Period.
Well, let's be very clear. We by default, we are absolutely using information and lessons and reading books and going to people's conferences that you mentioned, and we are consuming all of that content already. Like we just are by
Right.
default. So the idea that we aren't isn't it's we are. We already doing that. But in our curated space, I don't need those folks to be here with us. And I think that's fine. And the whole point of us developing these types of projects, like the whole reason why I do what I do is, to your point, actually, is to share the expertise and wisdom of people that otherwise would not be heard or known about, or people would be aware of if I didn't bring it up. So I think it's not that you shouldn't read the books or you shouldn't learn from these folks. Nothing like that. It's just that we have this opportunity to uplift other people who have wisdom, and we know about the wisdom that they have. And that's, I think, more to the point. Like I just feel like there's all these people doing great work, doing great things. To your point, of course we're learning from other people, observing what they're doing, what have you. Like, of course we are. But in our curated space, I want to uplift the voices of people who normally are not going to be heard, because I'm not going to buy that man's book. I'm not.
You don't
but
have to.
also
Moving
You can
forward,
download it
I'm
for
not.
free.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to. Moving forward, I'm not giving those people any of my lived energy.
Okay, that's
Period.
fine. But I'm
And
still sharing
that's
information.
but we're not saying you're not, but we have a right to be like, "Hey, this is our space." And like, also, you're a tech guy. So actually, to be fair to you, these people developed all these amazing eh, things. So of course they're part of your lexicon. Of course they're part of the people that you've learned from. Like, of course. I'm just not going to be excited about sharing them frequently moving forward, because they're problematic. And I just have other people that I want. See, like, literally, that has drained the energy a little bit, in my view. So I just, like, I don't disagree, but I'm just saying we have an opportunity to uplift other people that we know are doing cool stuff that we can learn from. And I'd rather do that than share what Peter Thiel is doing. And that's fine.
can I give you some like Black mom advice, Corey? I need you to find you a nice white man. Okay, maybe 3. But these are not the nice white men you can find. Okay, we need you to find like Simon Sinek. What's that old guy that writes a lot of books? Him, that wrote Idea Virus. Find you some nice white men. These are not nice white men.
They're not like they're not nice. But but good segue because Corey's like, why don't you write a book? Funny that you mentioned that because I am writing a book. Okay. And I am very excited about writing a book. And I'll be sharing more as we move forward. But I do want to talk about. Oh no, I never answered the question because we kind of spun out. In terms of my brand, so I have Creators Getting Paid. I have which is a podcast, a website, and the newsletter, which I call a community space, right? Um, I also have Your American Money. It's structured in the same way. Um, and I think this is a good point to talk about, like, what does monetizing look like for us within the context of our brand? So I have been asking all these monetization questions and having these conversations because I kept having like shoots, like huge amounts of income coming in. And then like there'd be months where it just would drop off. It'd be like dead, bad, ew. And so at the heart of what I am really looking at is how can I personally, as well as helping others, build up revenue that is somewhat predictable each month. That is really at the heart of what I'm always asking about. Like that's what I'm really looking at. Those are the systems that I'm really curious about. And I know that I'm not the only creator who has had the same experience where the income has gone up and down. You have a really lucrative, brand partnership or sponsorship. You have a huge amount of affiliate income that's come in, and then um, next month crickets, or you know, a policy impacts the world, and then people change their spending. Or so what I'm really trying to figure out is how to help not only myself, but you guys, other people, to have financially healthy businesses that allow us to thrive, to help other people, and to carry on our missions. Because as we're seeing, people are losing their jobs, people are losing government funding, grant funding under the guise of it's not white. I listened to today's Tech John episode and they were talking about this, in a slightly different way about how companies, they were joking, but they were like, if it's not white, it ain't right. And so that is impacting how we are, like the future of the work that we're doing. And so my goal, hey, Danielle, is to help other Black and brown and progressive, really, people build companies, spaces, communities that sustain themselves, especially in a time like this when people are very excited to kill the work that we're doing. That's why I care about this project so much. And it's hard.
I would love to say that I'm 100% altruistic, but that's not true because this is 100%
No, I
about
want to make money. No. You know what? I want to make money. The other part, to your point, I want to make money. I want to leverage the internet in the way that I've seen my white friends do. Really, I'm like, of course I do. Why the hell would I spend this much time noodling on the internet and trying to figure all these things out and not optimize the opportunity? That's right, Danielle. I want to make money,
I love
right?
how we all turn
I
from like social impact warriors to capitalists.
oh
That's
See,
funny.
Lord,
I think what you talk about is any business, right? The hills and the valleys. Then you have your good months, then you have your dry months, your bad months. Before I started the BPA, when I started my mobile studio, it was going up, and then COVID happened. Completely,
oof.
I would have never been able to predict that was coming, and it threw me a loop for the first 4 months of it. I was trying to figure out which route I should go because I didn't want to do consulting. I didn't want to be like all these people that would jump in and saying, I could launch a podcast in 30 days. I didn't want to be associated with that at all.
Right.
And I just happened to have started the community at the same time. So that just, it was like when one door shuts, the other one opens. But a conversation I have with like podcasters in our community and just, people in general. And I know people want to make the money now, and everybody's looking for the bag now. But I'm going to take my experience just from reading history, studying history, and plus being in the hip hop era, growing up in the golden age of the hip hop, being, a youth in it, trying to do it myself and all that stuff is, I think for people of color creators, I think we're not paying attention to the data, right? That says our audiences are more engaged than any other audience in regards to advertising. I think we're dropping the ball. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us. Um, there's plenty of Black brands. They may not be able to put the $10,000 in your pocket immediately, but there's lucrative ways and there's ways to go and collaborate with some of these brands to help build them up while you also make money in the process. Sometimes for us to skirt around what the system is, we got to go the old school way.
Mm.
I'm gonna use Wallow from $1 Million Worth of Game when he did his. Is that a better person to call from? When he did his interview, and I don't know whose show it was. They were asking him, "Well, how did you guys first start making money when you launched the podcast?" And I felt vindicated because if you ever heard me in the BPA, I always tell people, go in your local neighborhood, start with local businesses,
That's right.
try to raise capital that way. And he said, the first 3 minutes of our podcast, I just went in the hood and I was just going around to every store telling people, give me $100 for 1 minute. And he was like, people heard it and they were calling him like, yo, how much for the next one? And
Wow.
he just kept building that up to the point where it became profitable. But the problem with the part of the conversation is people hear the money part, they're not understanding that how many no's did he have to go to? How many times did he have to teach these Black business owners what he's doing and get them to understand why it's important for them why you should advertise on my show, to get the reach. And so it's like that's the part I think a lot of creators they know they need to do, but they're ignoring it because that's the hard work.
Yeah.
That's and a lot of people are looking at the creative space and the podcast space as a way to the quick bag because they think that the rapper Nori, who they never really ever heard of, just actually got this $30 million deal for his podcast out of the blue because for 2 years he was running his podcast, not realizing that this is 20, 30 years in the making from 1994 from when he first came out. So when I talk to people and I'm looking at it and I ask them what their motivation is to why they want to start a podcast, it's always like getting to the bag. But I'm like, a lot of these people who you say get in the bag, I saw a quote today that said, every overnight success is 10 years in the making, right?
Yeah.
People don't understand that part. So, and they think that YouTube and TikTok and whatever the next Substack is the next way to the bag. And yes, this person did accomplish that, but like you said earlier, a lot of times it's luck, and a lot of people don't believe that they're unlucky.
Well, a lot of luck comes from repeatedly trying. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sometimes it's just being able to outlast everybody else, right? Just
Literally.
keeping it up.
Literally. Yeah. I want to talk something that you said about he had to teach people what a podcast advertisement was and like how it could positively benefit their business. And I've shared like privately with you guys that I had something fall through because like the business, it was a Black owned business, great company, but I don't think they knew how to work with creators. And they were like,
They don't.
oh, they're like, I don't know what you need from me. And I'm like, telling them what they need. And they're just like still scratching their heads. Like they don't really understand. Like, so I think there's an educational component too for like small business owners, especially Black and brown small business owners are like advertising. No, I put the sign up and I go to work every day. Like that's the advertising for him. Like I make really whatever my product is, whatever my bit, like I make it the best that I can be. That's the advertising. And that is part of it. Like there's no amount of marketing that can help a terrible business. Like get that 1,000%. But I think that there is some education around it. I don't know how we standardize that. I don't know if it's just like the grit of having 100 different conversations and being like, how are people responding to what I'm saying? And like, how can I make this as clear as possible about like what the value exchange is and what the opportunities are for us to collaborate? Because again, it may not be, hey, I have a podcast, give me $10,000 for a 1 minute pre-roll ad. But it could be, hey, I want to do a small listening event where you can come and cater, bring food, have an opportunity to speak to them, invite them out to your restaurant, and we get the space for free, and we charge tickets at the door. We make money, you make money, you get inbound leads of people who already live in the area that would love to come anyway, right? So I think there's opportunities there for us to also be imaginative when we're teaching people, because again, like, I think if you were to go into a room right now, even like this, and say like, hey, like, you need to go in your local community and knock on local businesses' doors and say, hey, I want $100 for a 1-minute podcast ad, like, people would be freaked the fuck out. Like, they'd be freaked out. So you might be
Well, just so you guys know, that's something that we're going to solve in the BPA and in the newsletter. It's already in the works on my part. And the funny part was I had to cancel going to a local business event tonight because we have our live stream. I wasn't going to get back
Oh,
home in time from it, and I go to these things because locally they know me as the podcast guy, and I'm always answering these, especially the like older generation. I'm always answering these questions about what is a podcast, how can I use a podcast, da 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 da. Da. So I'm actively been working on one of the many projects that I work on behind the scenes of how to solve that problem and how to create something that's going to educate people on a more massive scale with the platforms that I have versus me having to go to these 1 or 2 events and stuff like that. So,
mhm.
if anybody's interested, reach out to me. I could use the help.
What's wild about Corey saying this is when I was in New York City last year, um, going to the summer picnic, I was out at dinner in this really awesome place. Aunts Eat Uncles. If you're in New York, go there. It's delicious. And I'm talking to one of the patrons, and this guy knew him. Do you understand how big New York City is? And they knew Corey.
I'm still trying to
Okay.
get used to that.
It was wild to me. I also got a free meal. So anyway, that was great. It was my birthday. I do want to ask you guys, vaguely, how are you making money within your brand? Like, what does that look like for you? I will answer first because I never answer first. Okay.
there you go,
Angela
friend.
Angela fusses at me. So technically I've mentioned this before, I have more than one project. I have not added any other projects for several years now because I am 100% aware that your focus is split when you have more than one project. I'm 100% okay with that. I'm happy with my multiple projects, but I would say if you can avoid that, I would. I'm just gonna be candid. Regardless, if you have multiple projects, one has to take the lead for whatever period of time you're in. So currently, my creators getting paid is the project that has a lot of momentum behind it. That is one that you're going to see me talking about quite a bit. That's the one that I'm really positioning in front of people. I have made money in a billion trillion ways over the years. So I'm going to just say broadly how I've made money. I've made money with brand partnerships and sponsorships, speaking, not as much as I would like actually with speaking. So I would love to grow that quite significantly. Course sales, which actually is a whole conversation. Um, Affiliate marketing, which I'm obsessed with and absolutely love. I love affiliate marketing so much. Um, Paywall revenue, which is that's a whole, like, we could just talk about that one topic. I feel like I had an in-person event, crowdfunding, like I've done it all. And through learning testing all these things out, I'm always happiest within my business when there are 1 or 2 income streams that's always coming in behind the scenes. I love that. Consulting. Some people love freelance writing, by the way. I did all those things. Some people love freelance writing. I don't. And I was getting paid really well with it, but I just did not enjoy it. Some people really love consulting. I actually enjoy consulting because I usually will pick 1, maybe 2 projects. That's all I have the capacity for, but they're really cool projects. So like last year, I worked with an organization working with Black and brown farmers to move an in-person experience online so that they could serve farmers across the United States with that personal finance content. It was really good pay, amazing experience. And like, that's the kind of consulting I enjoy. because it's very mission led. I got paid, and it has like this broader social impact. You know, and who knew that they would need this later, right? So I like that. Um, I understand that I like to work on income streams where I don't have to be on social media for the income streams. Like I just have to do the work and people connect with like an affiliate link and it just makes money, right? Like I love that. I love not having to be quite um as much the face of a brand as a lot of people are like, I love being the face of the brand and I love to be on video and I love doing, and I want to go like go hiking and soak in a hot tub or go to Paris or something. Like I'm not as energetically lifted by that. I want to write books and things like that. So learning this about myself has really been interesting because it means that I have a broader view of what makes sense for me in terms of how I would like to monetize and what makes sense. And then having conversations with the people that I'm serving in order to make sure that I'm building what they want within the context of what makes sense for me energetically and what I can stay focused on. The one way I make money I didn't bring up is I write romance books. And when I tell you, I love that. Like I have several projects that I could have just focused on the one project and it would have been fine. Um, so that's the other reason why I'm saying like be careful because it can slow down your progress, which is why this year is so heavily focused on a year like up until next year at this time on creators getting paid because I see all the opportunities within that project with course sales. Today I was when I was texting back and forth with you guys, I was building out a course. Excuse me. So I'm building out a course. All of us have been like building out products and stuff this summer. Like we've been tinkering with those things. I have a book that I'm writing that I'm very excited about. I find book writing very easy and fun for me. Um, so like making sure that what I'm doing is aligned with where my energy is so that I don't burn out like I have in the past. Love working with brands, love partnerships. When I did the Experian project where they flew me to San Francisco and we recorded a white label video series about credit, like that's awesome. Way underpaid, even though that was a really good payday. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't know other creators to be like, "Oh, you know, I got like XYZ amount. Was that good?" And they're like, "Well, you could have asked for more," but it was good for me at that time. I was like so excited.
Right.
And now I'm like, "Damn, I should have doubled that."
It's a learning experience.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
it's a hard learning experience, but it's a learning
You're
experience.
not lying. I mean, I got paid good. It wasn't like $1,000, but when I think about it, I'm like, I didn't know like the IP part of the negotiation. I could have negotiated differently, which is why I find people like that. Like I'm always seeking out like lawyers who are creating, templates and things like that to help creators because other people who look like me may not be aware of this. And I'm thinking, what are they not aware of that could help them and help sustain the work that they're doing? Obviously benefits me as well. What about you guys? How are you making money, or how have you made money? Like a broader view.
Yeah, I can give some insights here. I will say that, and I'll give based on revenue splits, just so people kind of have an idea. So I've always started off as a freelancer. I never started off as an online content creator. I think that is a transition I'm in the middle of now. Um, my best year in terms of like workload, ability to take breaks and not feel guilty about it or worry about what's going to happen in the business. 60% of my income came from freelancing, 20% came from brand deals, and the other 20% came from grants. Um,
Mm.
affiliate sales, affiliate links were like a little trickle, but not enough to really, count on, really care about measuring. Um, I did a crowdfund last year, so I've tried that as well. Um, going forward, I think the ideal is that, we get I would love to eliminate freelance work completely, but I know that's going to be a process, and I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater if it's still working. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So I think going forward, my best case scenario will be um, 10 to 20% from in-person events, so ticketed events, um, 30 to 50% from brand deals and sponsorships of various sizes and varieties, um, and then the remaining um, 30 to 50% from affiliate links and digital products. So they've seen two, well, at least one of them that I just recently worked on. I do think I'm going to go ahead and like finish that and put it out there as a tech product. And then Community OS, which I've been talking about forever, that I'm still
It's
writing and
cool.
did write. That is also going to be kind of our signature product for the brands. But trying to, and then again, I think as we have all seen, YouTube is a slow thing. So having YouTube AdSense, affiliate links, stuff like that, be kind of the trickle that keeps the lights on, as we grow into original content. So I think that's the ideal way forward for us. What about you,
You know
Corey?
what?
Oh,
Actually,
sorry.
can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. Before Corey speaks, I like how you broke down percentages, and that actually had me rethinking my answer a little bit, which is I would love to do like 25% digital products, um, maybe even 30%, to be honest. 30% book sales. I don't care which profile is selling the books. I don't give a like if it's my romance, if it's the book that I'm doing for creators getting paid. I don't care. Just sell the books. And then the other 40% would be like uh, sponsorships or brand collaborations. Again, I don't care which brand. So like I get reached out to for stuff for Colorado because guys, I'm crazy. I have a Colorado brand, which actually is probably the out of all the projects for collaborations, that's probably the easiest one. So thank
Really
you for
quick.
that perspective.
Yeah. Coach Ty Create says, how's the movie coming along? So I did finish, I guess it would be a second draft for the narrative film that I'm working on. And then I have uh, one other script that I need to revisit that I wrote like last year sometime that I need to redo. Um, and then I have two more pilot scripts I would like to write. Then I have an idea for a narrative like feature film. So the writing is happening. It's just that I'm doing a lot of writing in a lot of different places, and they're at like various stages of completion and like feedback and stuff. So thank you for asking. It's going.
Ba-
Hopefully it'll
ba-
come
ba-
up soon.
Basically, follow Michelle's advice and focus on one project, but don't listen to us because we don't know how to follow just one
Don't let
project.
no.
Use us as the example of what not to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, we don't know, just ignore us. Yeah.
Well,
What
Yeah.
about you, my friend?
a lot of my money is made from me doing dances on public transportation, on the trains and the subway. So if you ever see me, well, doing some pole dancing, that's me.
Sir.
Uh, I'm more conventional. My money first started in this space was like as a freelancer, right? Me having the mobile studio, bringing the studio to my clients and stuff. That turned into the consulting side. So I have a love-hate relationship with consulting because it does get a little.
Yeah.
I don't like helping people with stuff and they're not implementing it. It's frustrating to me. So I've got real selective with that. And then the majority of it is the community, like the consistent monthly or yearly payments that happens there. And then the newsletter where the people, shout out to our supporters, all you guys that are paying to support and keep Black Pod News afloat. Um, that's mainly where a lot of it's coming from. I haven't done any brand deals or anything like that, and which is fine.
They're
I,
coming. They're
I
coming.
have a strategy for that. Um, but in-person events, even though the majority of ones I've done are free, but we do our yearly. Um, yeah, I wish.
All
um,
right.
uh, for me though, the in-person event we do the one big one, our summer social every year. We just had it 2 weeks ago. That is a paid event. Um, but it's a fun and it's a dope event. Next year it's gonna be our 5th year, and I'm not gonna say it here, but I think I got a great idea for our 5th year. That I think is really gonna pack the house. It's probably gonna really be one of the blackest things you could ever do, but I'm looking forward to it. Um, I have some strategies. The way my brain works, I can't break it down to percentages because then for me, there's only one
Yeah.
percentage and it's 100%. So,
Oh, okay.
but I am thinking like trying to create different revenue streams, and I do want to like as you guys know, I'm writing a course. I'm trying to learn more to get into the digital space and create products so that I can have more consistent monthly revenue that way, for the company as well. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm still trying to work on the strategy side of it because there's stuff I'm still learning about some of this stuff is really new to me that I've been learning thanks to the membership of our community and my network. So it's still a learning curve in certain areas for me. Because I wasn't on my radar when I first had this idea and I started it. So and honestly, to be honest with you, like with the newsletter, I've had to because I'm usually the type of person that just jumps in and does stuff. I don't always do it right. So now it's like now I'm just got to spend time to fix it so that we can do the digital projects, products and stuff and make it scalable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no names, but for me, it's always about making things scalable. Um, and the way I set things up, it's not scalable. So that's
Mhm.
what I'm trying to fix now.
No, I
I
feel
actually
that.
think you mentioning scale is huge. I think that's the other piece of what I'm tinkering with and trying to learn and share with others. When you think about scale and monetization, what does that look like for you behind the scenes?
Me?
Both of you, all of
For
us.
me, for me, it means having enough revenue to start hiring people to do some of the tasks that so that I can concentrate on the more important stuff. And
Mm,
a lot of and that's another thing. The problem with monetization with creators, a lot of us are one or two people operations, right? We can't afford to. I can't afford to hire a business manager right now. I can't afford to, hire a staff person to just take on this one task of posting on social media all the time. Like, I might be able to do it in spurts and hire somebody freelance on a project by project basis, but um, the scaling part for me is I look at scaling is automation, right? A lot of people don't like hearing this about their jobs, but your job is scaling. Your job is automated. You do the
mhm.
work for the company, and it produces and the level of work that you do is predicted to create a certain amount of revenue for that company. So I look at it in that capacity, like how do I scale this, and not to make it exploitive of people, right? That's another thing
Mm.
I really. So despite who I might name drop, I'm always thinking about the exploitation of people in that
Poor
capacity.
Corey. We fussed at you today.
Like I said, you
Yeah.
can read stuff and take from it what you need to take from it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
for me, scaling is making it where because for me, scaling is making the BPA where it can exist without me. So
Mm.
that's
Mm,
how I look at it.
okay. I'm gonna chime in here for a second. I don't want my company to exist without me. I want it to be stable for sure, but it's my shit. Like, why do you want the thing that I built? Y'all was not in the
I
gym
have
with
an
me. I
exit
don't
strat.
care who I
I
hired.
have an exit strategy. So I got other things I want to do in life. So
I want to be a film director and a writer. That is what I want. That is what this company allows me to do. That is what I want to continue to do. That's it. So from a scale perspective, and I've been thinking about this a lot this year in terms of like, okay, like I keep saying I want to get away from being majority freelance income. How do I do that? Like, how do I really think critically about that? And quite frankly, that should put way more urgency under my behind to finish this course. It should put a lot more
it
urgency under
should,
me.
right? It doesn't. I'm in the same boat.
It should put a lot more urgency under me to like finish this other digital product that I have. Um, but it and it does. And I think maybe the other half of that is like I want to do it right because if I put out something that's subpar, it's not going to sell. It's not going to allow me to make the income that I would need in order to be able to hire someone consistently, like Corey said. And that's what you want. Like ideally, like I've worked with freelancers in the past, done some test projects with people. I understand what I want. I understand what my style is. You know what
Ooh.
I'm saying? And
All right.
Listen, Daniel, she's always dropping a course somewhere. So I just hate
okay,
to
but
come
she said it's
across.
done in her mind, so she's in the same boat. It ain't done.
It'll be done next. It'll be done, but Danielle, it'll be done next week. I'll get the email.
Danielle's like, she's working.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, like I think what would be needed for me to scale right now is to like get those digital products out there and scale the growth. Because like once they're made, it's just about marketing them. And we already have the marketing channel, which is the newsletter and my YouTube channel, so, and the podcast too. Like I could create ads for my own show. Like it could work. I just need to get it done. So I need y'all to hold me accountable to like get something to y'all by like the end of August.
Okay.
It's just like I've been kicking the can down the road in name of perfection, but also like writing. Like I am writing pen and paper, and that's going to take a little minute. But I feel good about like what we're working on and like the experience that it's going to have on both ends. And I think they are going to be priced appropriately to allow me to like provide value for people given what's in them. So there's that. I think the other half of this is like thinking about like who do we hire in order to make this business sustainable if we want to continue to leverage our growing audiences for brand partnerships, which is essentially what we're doing, right? I don't do paid subscriptions anymore for my newsletter. I don't have a monthly membership like Corey. Long story short, I like my sanity. I like to not give myself another job. Like to me, that's just another job because I've had a retainer client. I've had a retainers as a freelancer, and they're incredible, to have an open-ended contract like that gives you flexibility to do other things. But at the end of the day, like you have monthly deliverables. They don't care that I want to go to the PNW for a week. They still want what they want. So, and that's the same thing with like a membership or like any kind of monthly subscription. It's like, that's cute that you want to go take a vacation, but I'm waiting on my article that tells me how to grow my business. So you need to like be back by whatever date that you're supposed to be in my inbox. And I just like, I can't keep doing this. I need to be able to do what feels right to me. And like not feel pressure to put something out just for the sake of putting something out, but really be able to stand by everything that comes out. So that's me on that.
So I'm going to share a story and just some perspective about scale. I will never forget when I wrote my romance book and I had been thinking about it and then I was like, I'm going to just write. Like I do things fast. Like I'm either like I'll do it really fast or I'll think about something for a while and then once I make a decision, I'll do it fast. So um it's a weird place to be because I'll move fast before I kind of get in my head and think myself out of taking an action. When I wrote the romance book, it was wild to me because I wrote it, I got it done in like 27 hours. I self-published it. I did everything, right? I made $514 that month with that book. And I was like, that's my mortgage. You guys, my mortgage is
The hell?
really cheap. It's really cheap now. I was like, holy shit. Awesome. And
You didn't
then
go
I was like,
chemo. How do you got your mortgage like that? That's a whole course right there.
because it's almost you guys, it's almost paid off. But listen. So I was like, this is amazing. So then I was like, I'm gonna write a course because I was like, I'd done this thing and the books were still selling and I wrote a course. I was selling that course. It did well. And I actually ended up speaking to Tiffany, the Budgetnista Alice's community. And if you're familiar with her, she has, I feel like 1 million people in her community now. Like it's insane. It's just, but I knew her because we personal finance space together. Like, remember what I was kind of mentioning before? And so I was able to go in front of her audience with this slightly very imperfect product, and people still loved the course. And the books that they created were amazing. Like the work that they did, I feel so proud to be like a part of that journey that they had. When I look back at my brand, and again, as I said earlier, the moments that where I was like, wow, this is awesome was when the romance books, thank you, Danielle. When the romance books were selling and money would just come in. And that was particularly amazing during COVID when I was in my house for 3 months because we were under lockdown. And all I could hear were flashbangs because they were, Denver stays protesting. So they were protesting and you could just hear just the flashbangs. Like it was crazy.
That's wild.
And so knowing that I was safe and that I had money coming in and that there was no urgency, and that I was okay, that my mom was fine, her life was good, everything was good. And I told you last week how stressful my life has been. So having that experience of I'm good and this is from something I did, it was insane to me. So now, the thing that they don't tell you though, they meaning other creators, is because we can explore any like creative idea or concept, that is also a problem, right? Because you can do everything that's in your brain. And sometimes like that's in your brain, like the timing's not right. So right now, how I'm looking like moving forward, because it's been a hard year for me. You guys know I'm in mourning. I've like got a lot going on, and I'm like, what makes sense for me in 2025 and 2026? Because I want to scale, but I don't want to scale to have 1,000 people with me. I want to scale and have like one or two people that I contract with for a couple of things, and that's it. I don't want a team because I used to run teams. I don't want to do all that. I just want to contract with you to help me with the thing, and then I'm out. I want book sales because I love books. Book sales, book sales, book sales. I want course sales, love courses. Um, I want things where I wake up and I just have payment notifications. Those are the best. And because it was just so awesome to wake up and just be like, "Bing, you've got 4 figures in your account." And you're just like, "That's awesome." And then when I, have worked with brands and they're like, "Here's $3,000 or whatever." And now I'm like, "Hell yeah, that is the best." And one of the things that I've thought about is when I look at my brand as an ecosystem, an entity, if I'm working with people, where are they finding me? Where's the opportunity for me to support them with a product, good, or service, whatever? If I'm working with a brand and they're looking at what I'm doing, like with the newsletter, which is a huge, huge, huge priority. How responsive are people when I send something? Are they reading this? When I send something, are they clicking on things? Are they communicating with me in the portal? Are they sending me a message? My romance newsletter back in the day, I would hit send. Those readers would respond to me in 30 seconds. There would be people from South Africa. Hi, I'm not going to say the pen name, but it would be my pen name. Hi, so and so. Um, it's lovely here in South Africa, and we read your book and blah 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 blah. That's how I learned how to send newsletters. Was my romance list. It was the best. Super chill. That's why I don't make it complicated because of what I learned with that. So all the work that you guys are doing, by the way, like we didn't say this, all the things that you're testing out and learning will help you as you work towards that end goal. Don't forget that. Like each piece of knowledge, that's like being collected by your brain, by your systems, by the community that you're building, by the people that you know. And that's why when people quit before the diamond, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you don't like maybe you find a job and you're like, this job is amazing, but I still love this thing I'm building out. Keep building it out quietly, tinker with it, do whatever, because you'll still be growing and learning and doing whatever you need to do, especially in this economy. This economy is weird. So I also want to say, if you're building something, but you also see an opportunity to work for do both. I have a lot of friends who are doing both, and they're getting paid to learn skills that will help them with the job, skills that will help them with the brand and business that they're building. Totally fine. There was I think a time when people were really resistant to hearing that, but that no, eggs were $11.99 in Denver for a long time this year. So you like do what you got to do, but understand, to Corey's point and Angela's point earlier, that the journey is going to be longer than you would expect. It just is. It just is to your end result that you're working towards.
I just want people to know, like, I really appreciate Michelle's marketing plan with her romance books, because probably a bunch of people like me, I'm going to start looking at romance novels and try to figure out which one is her pen name, and all of a sudden romance sales are going to go uptick just because people want to figure out what's Michelle's pen name and which book did she write.
I'm not telling you.
Oh, I know.
I'm not saying.
It's great marketing.
She does have a podcast, though. I will say that. And that's on purpose, because I can market my books and I can market other people's work. Win-win. Win-win-win.
Okay.
And in fact, market other people's books, market my books, and get these books in front of readers who are looking to read them. Win-win-win.
What's the name of the podcast?
I am not telling you. Whatever.
You
think you're slick. You think you're slick. Whatever. I know how you are. So, lovely humans. What last comments, thoughts? As we thank you. This was a great conversation. But what last monetization thoughts, comments? Like what are your thoughts as we begin to wrap up the conversation? And what are you thinking about your own monetization journeys with your projects that you're working on? I do want to say, I feel like one day we might need to do a conversation specific to like creative monetization or creative businesses, like fiction, people focused on fiction works or audio dramas, or I just feel like there are different approaches than in an information focused business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because
entertainment creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because since I have a romance brand, I think about the marketing with that a little differently than like creators getting paid. You know.
I agree.
My last thought here. First of all, there's 76 people in here, and I just want to say thank you guys. Next week I'll kind of be leading the discussion a little bit on video, and I love these two people, but I'm trying to show them up. I'm trying to get 100 people in here next Thursday
Whatever.
to hang out with us. So tell your friends to tell a friend that if we get 100 people in here, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something crazy just for y'all, exclusive for the people that come to see my shenanigans. So thank you. And you can name your price at this point because I'm at your beck and call. Nothing explicit, nothing romantic. Don't get crazy. Keep it PG. Now, anyway, to the 76 of you who I know are going to turn this into 145 people next week.
I've heard
Thursday, by the way.
Some great editing skills.
Oh, it's on Thursday of next week, though, guys. I just want to
Thursday, not Tuesday next week. Thursday. So we're going to double this next week.
Oh, it's on
Thursday.
Actually, if you could do us a favor, everybody, as we Thursday, yeah, because she's gonna be, doing cool people things. Yeah. Oh no, is that your movie night?
That's not.
We have it on the poster.
I know. That's why I'm like making the face because I'm sitting here like I know it's on the calendar.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna end it on, Angela? Your advice or
I was
anything?
just gonna say, first of all, thank you guys. Secondly, double this number next week. Third, it's possible. Like creative monetization is possible. Like don't let us discourage you from thinking that it's not. But please understand, it just may take longer than you might think. And that freelancing and like in-person networking and marketing is always going to work faster for monetization than starting a newsletter or like starting a social media account. That's my TLDR of this whole thing. Yeah.
Actually, why don't we also give advice? I'm gonna triple down on what Angela said specific to networking, like knowing people. I would say that 80% of my really large like projects were from people that I knew, or that I still know. So when I crowdfunded my in-person event, I raised $10,000 for that project. And literally all I did was I emailed my friends like a month before the event. Why are you making that face,
No,
Corey?
I'm writing notes. I'm writing notes right
Okay,
now.
okay. I'm like, oh. So I was like, I can't be in the red for this event, right? And so a month before the event, I just emailed all my friends. It was a personal finance event called Money on the Mountain. I hosted it here in Denver at this beautiful, beautiful hotel. It has a brewery in it. So like you check in and you get beer. And then they have like a rooftop pool and restaurant. You see a 360 view of the city and the mountains. It was amazing. But it was $10,000 easily. So I just emailed my friends and I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I sent a video email. This is important. So they knew me. I sent a video email. I explained what I was doing. I sent the pitch. Most people who said yes, just were like, "We'll send you this." They just sent the money because I shared a link. So some people were just like, "You don't have to tell anyone that I gave you $500." I'm like, "Okay." And so funny enough, I am going to be crowdfunding for a podcast season that I'm working on that should be released in March. And that budget's going to be aggressive, right? Because it's going to be a lot of work and it's a very um, it's a project that I feel very passionate about, but it's a lot of moving parts. And so I'm in the process of figuring out like what's that budget? Who am I going to reach out to? What does that look like? Um, and I feel like people don't discuss enough how important it is to be able to just have that one big ask every 5 years. Like every 5 years, you have a big ask of people. You can't be asking all the time or else people get kind of fatigued with you. But this is the first time in probably 6 years because my event was 2019 and I decided not to do another one after it. It was great, but I was like, we're good. So it's been 6 years since I've reached out to people and been like, so I'm doing a thing. And that's good because they're not fatigued by any requests from me. So the other thing is I'm writing a book and that's just self-published. It's gonna be digital. That's it. And I'm gonna start marketing that probably within the next couple of weeks because I just am. And I think I'm gonna have that released end of the year because it's a business book. So the idea is that you start reading it at the beginning of the year. So there's just things that I'm looking at um, now in order to scale things. But I think you have to know people. You have to know people who will get your work in front of other people. And you have to know people like I give people money. I mean, they're not asking all the time, but I do give people money or I think about how can I allocate part of my budget towards an event. So there are certain events where I'm like moving forward. I want for next year, I'm allocating income like money towards it so that I can support those projects, you know? So yes, you need to know people. Two, you need a list. I don't care. Like this is the one thing, quite frankly, I wish someone had really sat me down and drilled in my head because I'll never forget my friend who had 20 hours a week to build her brand. She was a mommy blogger. Okay. And we were in a mastermind. It was such a cool mastermind. It was super diverse. I think it was like 5 Black women, 5 white women, and we're friends to this day. It was great. And I'll never forget, a couple of them are millionaires now and very well known. And all they did, all of them, in retrospect, I'm looking back, they built their list. They learned the craft of building a brand online. It's just not vibes, it's also like logistics. And like, there's just these things you have to know. No one was like we had conversations, but I wasn't in the right timing to hear what I needed to hear. You need to build your list. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that. I'm not saying you need a newsletter, by the way, but you do need a list because if you're trying to monetize, you need to sell to somebody, right? And as these platforms do what they do, You need to be able to access your community separate from these platforms. And I really wish someone had doubled down on that and talking to me about that. I think probably the third thing is marketing. I would like to admit that I feel like I'm way under marketing my project. And I think most people are, because there is, I think, a fatigue that comes up with the idea of marketing. Why do you think I proposed to do this with Angela and Corey? One, I just thought they would be wonderful co-hosts. I think that I like how we're different. I like how we fuss at each other. I just like how this came together. But two, I am accountable to these two. I have to show up for them. And we are building something very beautiful, but I was like, we are collaborating and moving up together. Like our efforts are like moving our brands up together. And it's very much a strategy to make sure that we're marketing what we're working on and that other people see the work that we're doing. And earlier we were talking about noticing an opportunity. I noticed that there are no Black people really live streaming on Substack. There's a few, and I feel like we know them, right? Like
I know some of
Steve,
them, yeah.
Tanya, and Michael Motley, like those three and ourselves. And I'm like, there's 30 million. There were 45 million unique hits on Substack in January of 2024. And so I was like, wait a minute, here's an opportunity. And even if 100 other people started going live, it's still a huge ecosystem. Like it's way under the amount that could be marketing their works. But most of us way under market what we're doing. And I think that would be the other part. Like all of us need to market a hell of a lot more than we think we should, especially if we're trying to sell something. Painful.
Mine's is not going to be that long. I just say the biggest advice I give people is, just if you find yourself copying everybody else too much, you got to stop yourself and try to figure out how to think outside the box. Sometimes, not everything that people do is for your audience is going to work with your audience, and fail all the time, because that's how you're going to learn what works and what doesn't work. I think that's the two big pieces of advice. Think outside the box and be willing to fail and learn from the failure. So, I played a lot of sports, and I watch a lot of sports, and the teams that get arrogant about winning all the time are the ones that'll usually have the gaping holes in somewhere, right? So, one thing I learned from watching certain coaches, I'm not going to name, is some of them are problematic, but is that they always have this idea where they're willing to fail, they're willing to test, constantly keep testing things. Then they don't let winning make them complacent. So yes, be happy in your success. Enjoy your success, whatever successes you make, but always be willing to fail and learn. And I think, one of the beauty of us growing up Black in America is we've always figured out how to be successful as an underdog. Right. And I take the lesson of like hip hop, like how hip hop wasn't supposed to last as long. Right. But now look at it. It influences the world. And I think we always figure out a way to win. So, just think outside the box. That's how I look at it.
Could you guys do me a favor and share this live stream? It really helps us when you do that. The share button's by the hearts in the right-hand corner of the screen. I cannot read this because my eyes are tired. What's it saying?
You know what? Thank you, Angela, because that's one of the fastest ways to have me unsubscribe to your list is me getting inundated daily with spam of constantly trying to sell me a product that I might not even be in the mood to purchase right now.
Or care to purchase.
Purchase, yeah.
But why are we spamming people? That doesn't make sense. Like what? Like,
well, no, that's
when we talk about marketing. No, but like we're not talking about that here though. We're talking thoughtful strategic, nuanced, planned, having an editorial calendar. We're not talking spamming people. So,
Right. So,
you know what I'm saying?
but this was fun. It was good talking to you guys. So next Thursday, I'm gonna make sure I double check my calendar.
I'm sorry. I'm throwing off the rhythm because I'm gonna be out of town on Tuesday. Yeah.
Right?
Well, you
That's
guys
right.
gotta remember,
I'm
man.
excited.
I'm neurodivergent, so when I start getting into a rhythm, it's kind of like, oh, okay. I don't even think about it anymore. So, yeah.
It's all
It's all right.
good.
It's all right.
It's my fault.
I'm very excited about next week's conversation, but I'm really excited about the pop culture one that we're going to end the month with because we've got a lot to go. We got a lot to talk about. Oh my God. But I'm gonna learn a lot next week because I'm not video forward really. So
And I would say, like, it is video, like I am a filmmaker, but it really translates to all things visual storytelling. Like that's what I would probably say to help people feel more comfortable about it.
okay.
All right. Sure. I wasn't talking. Okay. No problem. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everybody, for coming through. It's been 2 hours. My phone is about to die. I love you guys.
Oh God.
I will see you guys
78
next.
people.
All right.
Safe travels.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
See everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good
Bye.
night.